Hello, everybody. Today is February 23rd, 2024. This is the day that marks my 1 year anniversary for my channel. And my channel has ultimately been my journey to heal from PTS, from, in essence, life. And in return, I ended up gaining consciousness. Now, those of you that have been watching my channel, subscribed or whatever, you might have realized that by now that I'm basically creating a journal. And I'm doing something that's never been done before. And for those of you that this is the first video that you've watched, please, from this point forward, watch the videos in order, because I will be telling a story that I believe really can help pretty much everybody in the world. I've used my channel as a way of creating a live, unscripted, unedited journal. I was transparent over the last year as I worked through my PTS, addictions, relationship trauma, combat trauma, childhood trauma, and ultimately my own self-destructive actions. Now, doing my journal online through YouTube, and like I have been for the last year, it gave me the ability to, in essence, protect myself. And it also allowed me to establish proof that ultimately was undeniable, with a timestamp that proved what I had been saying all along was true. I was able to recognize how society chooses to view negativity over positivity. And I've also been able to, by doing this journal, I've been able to create potential evidence in the event that somebody would try to come against me for what I've said, as well as proof that everything I've been saying over the last year is true. Through doing so, I have admitted the most negative things that I've done in my life. I allowed myself to face the negativity in my life and find the positivity that came from each one of the negative experiences. This allowed me to help others recognize their own actions, and I was able to do it in what I consider to be a positive way. Now, what I just said in this last bit, you'll see as I continue to tell my story, that this theme ended up being the baseline of healing and gaining consciousness from the very beginning when I started my channel. Kind of like a little formula, if you will, that I knew right off the start was recognize the negative, find the positive that's hidden behind it, within it, allow the negative to recognize itself, and then ultimately all things become positive. Please bear with me as I'm going along, because I'm using a old school format. I'm using PowerPoint, and I am just rolling with this, and it'll make sense why in the long run. Now, if you question, why did I put my journal on YouTube, especially in a live, unscripted, and unedited format? The reason for YouTube was because from the very beginning, I knew that what I was doing, ultimately I wanted to be able to reach out to anybody in the world that's gone through the same type of struggles that I've gone through. And I guarantee you, within my story, certain parts of it will touch every single person. Not because I have an ego or not because I think I'm anything special. Just because we all are experiencing the same thing in our life, or gone through the same type of thing. Now, why have I used live and scripted? Well, honestly, it's so that it was a way of forcing me to speak strictly from my heart. And what I mean by that is if it's not live and it's scripted, you end up using your physical brain. And your physical brain has a tendency to feel insecure, feel sorry for ourselves, and so on. And if I was to take too much time to think about exactly what I am saying, then I potentially could say something that I don't feel true in my heart, more that my insecurities or negative, within my brain would tell the story, and in essence, I would create a lie within my own story. Now, along the same lines, why unedited? Well, we're definitely in an era that AI has virtually destroyed our faith in anything that we see online. My hopes are that somehow I might be able to connect with somebody around the world that, you know, people can figure out, can feel through my energy that I'm being honest, that I'm truly just talking from my soul. Now, granted, now you can see I'm using PowerPoint, and if you're watching my eyes, you can see that I look over to the side because there's so much information over this last year that I've learned, and it's useful information and it's all positive that I believe ultimately everybody could benefit from. Um, and who knows? Here I am, just some dude. Right now I'm in Thailand. Um, Maybe someone can relate to me. Maybe somebody has gone through the same type of things I've gone through before and feels a little bit of relief that somebody else understands. Um, and it allowed me to face my own insecurities, just like right now. If anybody has ever filmed themselves, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And over the last year, I have filmed myself tremendously in some of the worst situations possible. I mean, I literally allowed the world to see me work through my own PTSD, and pretty much a person could say darn near every single mental issue, except there was one component that was missing through the whole way through my channel, is that I always refused to accept the negative. I never did anything wrong. All I did was go around and give love to people and refused to feel sorry for myself. And if you think about it, how many mental illnesses in the world have issue finding the positive and accepting only the positive, but instead always obsess about the negative and have a hard time finding anything positive? Unfortunately, the last is most all mental health issues. You can't find any mental health disorder, if you will, that truly just wants to give love, truly wants to find the positivity within everything, even though gone through an extremely traumatic, experiences in my life, just like every single one of us have. Um, Now, from this point forward, or even all the way back to the beginning, a year ago, what was my goal, or what is my goal? Honestly, it's for other people to learn as well as myself to learn from my mistakes. It's a chance to recognize that no matter how negative our perception is on life, we can change our own reality. If you simply find the positive in life that's hidden behind your own negative perception. We all have our very distinct and individual perspective of life. One thing that is absolutely guaranteed is nobody in the world has the exact same perception of anything. I mean, it can go clear to what a certain color is. Well, you don't know exactly how they see that color. And I'll show this, later on in my story. There's so many things over the last year that I've learned that honestly are mind-blowing. I've had people even say that, ooh, that's too much. It feels like, magic. But all of it's been in a positive nature. I've never had any ill intentions. I've just literally started opening up my brain, hence consciousness. And as I chose to purge all the negative out of my brain, I started learning anything really I wanted to know, any truths, what I, consider truths, what we all consider truths. But I'll get to that and it'll make sense through my story. My journal truly demonstrated, and also my channel up to this point has truly demonstrated how the physical brain instinctually perceives life from a negative first perspective. And I was able to, and other people were able to, identify how the most prominent source of negativity is the things that are closest to us, like your spouse or your family, and we aren't even consciously aware of it. Also, my channel has been able to demonstrate how the mental health industry truly contributes to mental illness. For example, notice I said working through my PTS. I didn't say PTSD. There's a huge difference between PTS and PTSD. Now, medical industry, back in the beginning of my channel, when I was illegally forced to do a mental health assessment, which, there was no court order, no history or anything, that I ended up passing, but they did put in there that I had grandiose delusions as well as overly empathetic. Well, nobody has the right to say grandiose delusions unless you have truly recognized what consciousness is or even taken the time to research it. And when it comes to overly empathetic, what does that really even mean? Who has the right to say that something is overly empathetic when it's positive for everybody? And a lot of people viewed what I was doing as mentally ill. Not a single person for 1 second stopped and said, oh wow, he just got back from combat in Ukraine as a 100% volunteer. Had been in combat during Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I've had tremendous amount of unfilled or unsuccessful relationships. I raised my daughters that were exposed to tremendous amount of negativity from their mother, and ultimately ended up getting full custody of them. And the list goes on and on and on. And I don't want to get into the negative because that's why I did the journal, and it's still all online. It's still all on my channel. And if somebody would like, the most negative stuff on my channel I've put is private, but you'll be able to see simply by, looking through titles and so on, you'll be able to see the journal. And the reason why I'm keeping it online is I have no issue at all proving what I'm saying is true. If somebody's out there that's struggling and maybe something I say relates to you, and you would like to see that I understand where you're coming from, make a comment or send me a private email, and I will release the video, open it up for you to see. I have zero issue with that. That's why I did it from the start. The only reason why my journal is already started becoming private, I'm going to continue to make it, more of it private, is because there's, at this point, everything positive that can come out of my channel and out of the process that I've gone through over the last year will be in this story, will be from this point forward. So please try to understand that's why. And those of you that have been following along, I'm sure now it's kind of starting to make sense to you that all along I was just trying to allow myself to heal, allow myself to go through what I was going through, because I knew that counseling would not be able to help me. You'll understand why. I already mentioned about the legal mental health assessment that in essence I passed, but they still tried to find something negative about me. They didn't say anything positive, even though I was loving and considerate while they were doing it. And ultimately, this last year has given me the ability to show the struggles of waking up and gaining your consciousness. At the very beginning, when I started this channel, when I first woke up, and I mean I woke up in a big way, it was amazing. It was the most beautiful experience one could go through. But unfortunately, from other people not being able to comprehend what was going on, not even willing to try to understand what was going on, they assumed the worst, and they projected their negative energy onto me, which ultimately brought all my PTS to the forefront, where, I did, looking back in my journal, I did go through some nervous breakdown, whatever you want to call it, simply coming to terms with the stress that I'd gone through and had been cast upon me. But what I kept telling myself is I refused to feel sorry for myself. I refused to accept any negative what was taking place, and I would always find the positive within what was happening. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to try to imply that it was easy. Hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Combat for 2 countries wasn't even remotely challenging or heart-wrenching like this was. Some of it was incredibly heart-wrenching. But we can talk about that later on in my channel. But to let you know who or what I am, I'm 53 years old. I'm a father of 3 beautiful daughters. They're now on their own. They have their own families now. I'm like I'd mentioned, a combat veteran for the United States Marine Corps. I was in Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I was on CH-46s. Less than 2 years ago, I became a combat veteran in Ukraine. I was a 100% volunteer. And, looking back and understanding why I felt it was so important for me to do it, I realized was both positive and negative, the way my mind was thinking at the time, but ultimately was one of the best things I, have ever done in my life. I also, I'm a prior engineer, carpenter, cabinet maker. I've always loved to work with my hands. I've loved to create. Um, I've loved to strain my brain to figure out more efficient, better ways of doing things. I worked as I finished up with my engineering. I took on a position as a mortician and funeral director as an intern because I wanted to see if potentially I wanted to go on to medical school. Um, I decided I didn't want to do that because I knew that I wouldn't be able to be a father to my daughters if I chose that route. Instead, I'd be concentrating on my career. Um, let's see, about 6, 7 years ago, I went to school and became a tattoo artist and a very successful tattoo artist. I worked 7 days a week, 14, 15 hours a day. Not because I was all about the money, but instead because I loved what I was doing, and I loved that I was able to give something to my clients that they would be able to enjoy the rest of their life. Um, Towards the end of me tattooing, I also got to the point to where I could pull off 3D tattoos and actually kind of holographic tattoos because of how my mind works and how I started analyzing how the brain processes color vibrations and so on. But we'll talk more about that later. Um, but to get to my core, I'm incredibly humble. I see that I truly am no better than anybody else on this earth. Now, one's perception might, want to argue with that. The only difference is the choices we make. The only difference between any of us are the choices we make, because I know that in our core, we all have a natural ability to be good. We all have a natural ability to love once we learn how to truly stop feeling sorry for ourselves. Um, Empathetic. Like I said, I had been told that I'm overly empathetic. If nothing negative is coming from it and you're not hurting anybody and you're only trying to help everybody because you love everybody, I honestly do not feel there is something that could be considered overly empathetic. Isn't that what our purpose or our core values should be? Is to love each other, understand each other, not judge each other. All those good things that we've heard over the years, but we haven't wanted to truly listen to because out of our own fear, if you will. Really, a part of me is just like every single one of us in the world. I mean, all of us have heard and known in our heart that everything is connected, known in our soul, and I distinguish in my story the difference between, heart and soul and what the physical brain perceives as the heart or as what love is versus, you know, the truth about love, the truth that all of us can agree upon, what love is supposed to be. Um, and ultimately, I'm just awake now. And why did I wake up? Because my physical brain finally got to the point to where it had taken on so much negativity from this world. A lot of it had to do with my own fault. A lot of it had to do with, other people's fault, and most of it had to do with destiny, how things are meant to be. And I received a choice. And when that choice came was when somebody, the first person on earth, in essence, that I truly gave unconditional and deserving love to, couldn't even recognize what I was doing. And she was within a relationship with me. All she was able to do was, she wasn't able to get past her own trauma that she suffered up to that point in her life. Not necessarily from me at all, but from her childhood and so on. And her mental health issues, or I'm just going to say PTS, caused her to try to destroy everything that at that point I thought was important to me. She, I don't really need to get into it, but when she did that, when she was doing everything to destroy my business and so on, I knew I had a choice. And my choice was, I could get angry and fight back, fight fire with fire. Or I could just think with love and realize that I do not want to be a person who creates more trauma within her existence. And right then and there, I chose that no matter what, I was going to try to understand. I wasn't going to feel sorry for myself, and I was just going to accept things for how they played out. And then boom, I started waking up. And ultimately, I just am what I am. I'm nothing more special than anyone else, and I'm nothing worse than anybody else. I'm just me. Was my educational background? Well, all my life I've been a knowledge monger. I'm the type of guy that driving down the road, if I saw a construction site going on, saw them doing a new procedure that I'd never seen before, I would stop and try to learn every single thing I could. As a tattoo artist, if I, those of you who are tattoo artists and those of you that have tattoos, you know that clients tend to dump all the negativity that they're going through onto their tattoo artist as they're getting a tattoo. And I understand why, and most tattoo artists understand as well. But I use that as an opportunity to learn. To learn how the human brain thinks, how it processes, how we all tend to view the negative and feel sorry for ourselves. So, I whether it be through formal education or life experience, I'm educated in engineering, criminal justice, domestic law. The mother of my youngest, she was a family law attorney, and we were together 10 years, something like that. And I went through an 8-year custody battle, and actually she represented me. That's how we met. And you better believe I learned domestic law inside and out. Military science in the Marine Corps and combat for both countries. I have definitely learned the art of war in all aspects of, and to say the art of war kind of makes me ill, but those of you understand what it is. I've learned, if you see right here, I've been through that says SEER. SEER stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. I'm level C, excuse me. Braces make it hard to speak clearly. But I'm level C trained, which is the highest level of SEER training. Basically, it's a training to teach you how to survive as a POW without giving up the information when you're being tortured. You can look it up. It's easy to find nowadays. I have law enforcement training. I tested with the Benton County Sheriff's Department. I passed, made it clear up to the final interview. Chose not to go with that because of it being the same style of mentality, if you will, that the military was. And I knew that in that environment, I would not be able to excel. And I think it was a mutual agreement that maybe law enforcement wasn't, a good option for me because I want to help. I don't want to control. I've also studied a tremendous amount over this last year, and those of you who've been watching my channel, you've seen it. Theology, the study of religions. I've studied nonstop, all the way back to the Egyptian era, all the way through how each religion came about, and learned how each religion tends to take from another religion, and it just over time just keeps changing and changing and changing, and people end up adding and taking away parts whether it's on good intentions or whether it's out of manipulative practices, why they do it. And I do look forward to sharing that part with you. How do I stand? I don't claim one specific religion. I do know that there's a tremendous amount of truth. I do know that, one individual, and I refer to him as Son of Man, because that's most of the time what he referred to himself as. And this happens to be the one person in our existence that willingly gave up his life for all the negativity in ours. So, of course, I looked very closely at the exact words and how he said it, and why he said them a certain way, and the history of how he said it, and what happened before his era. But I'll get into that later in my story. I've even studied, shamanism. I've studied what it could be considered as ceremonial magic, if you will. Now, don't think that I've done anything like sacrifices or anything. No, I've just tried to understand where it's coming from. And the reason why I wanted to understand all the religions, whether it be Judaism, Buddhism, Catholicism, Christianity, didn't get into studying Satanism or satanic practices, because honestly, right off the bat, it's just obvious that that's all negative. So I didn't want to expose myself when I was trying to heal from all the trauma, and I felt that I was more susceptible to negative influences, if you will, as I was trying to heal. Moving on from there, there's so much that I really want to share with anybody that's willing to listen. And I have within my journal that I've created, I have proof of every single thing that I will, have claimed up to this point, and I will claim from this point forward. I worked as a funeral service director and a mortician. I had mentioned about the internship. That gave me a deep perspective on life and death and family, how family act and feel towards their deceased, members. And it really demonstrated to me the true human connection to one another, and how we all tend to resort to feeling sorry for ourselves. I'm not judging. I just understand. That's the main thing to remember. I don't want to make anybody, feel bad or feel guilty or anything like that. I just want to help people purge all the negative and try to find the positive within your existence so that you can stop hurting, in an attempt to avoid you from going through the pain that I've gone through over this last year. Um, Obviously, I have a background in parenting and childhood development. That is some of the best education that you can get. And also some of the most difficult. Behavioral science, basically mental health. I've taken counseling classes. Yada yada yada, and ultimately ontology, which in essence is a study of meaning of life. What core purpose do we have as humans? And it'll make sense as I, continue on and explain it within my story. Now, what have I been doing over the last year? Well, I sold my home in Corvallis, Oregon. I gave away all my remaining, in essence, possessions or comforts. And the reason why I did that is because one, I refused to feel sorry for myself. Two, I knew that so much negativity had been attached to that, especially at the point when I had done it. And I'll explain later. But in order for me to truly concentrate on myself and truly heal, I needed to have as minimal strings as possible. And also, I knew I needed to be mobile. Those of you who've been watching, you know that there were 2 attempts in my life not long after I started my channel. And I knew that the best thing I could do would be mobile because it had been proven to me that I wasn't going to get any form of protection from the local authorities. Discuss that later. Once I had cut all the strings and gotten rid of all my, physical attachments, I went ahead and I circumnavigated the United States. I went all the way around it, and I went to the worst locations that one would think, whether it be the tunnels under Las Vegas, I've been everywhere, and if you've been watching along, I have. I've spoke to over 50,000 plus people. And what did I speak to them about? Well, it was a matter of seeing if people who were at the lowest point in their life, if they had ever thought about, how to purge the negative, how to view things from a different perspective, or even simply that they have the ability to. And what's amazing, other than 2 people out of every single person I've talked to, and what I've been talking about is a totally different concept than anybody has ever presented or approached things from. And not a single person disagreed. Anyway, after circumnavigating the United States, I headed to Israel because I wanted to learn the foundation of the average person's moral compass. In essence, the history of religion. And of course, Jerusalem is considered the Holy Land, and Israel is considered the Holy Land. So I figured, hey, I might as well start at the very beginning. When I was there, I learned a tremendous amount. And of course, I went to all the significant areas. But I came to the knowing while I was there that was not the place that I needed to be. So I left. And within a couple weeks, the war started in Israel. And where it started was exactly where I had been. Now, you better believe, someone looking like me would definitely have been a target. So I'm thankful for just knowing it was time to get out of there. Um, I visited some of the poorest parts of the world. Even where I'm at now, I am in the process. I've already built a community bathroom slash sanitary um, building, if you will, in the very, very poverty stricken, primitive style areas of Isan, Thailand. That's down by Cambodia and close to Laos. I'm going to continue. I have, am buying a piece of property within the next couple weeks, and I'm going to, in essence, put up kind of like just a healing area that anybody in the world, if they can relate with what I'm saying, if they need, help trying to work through, as long as you can, get the transportation to Thailand, then I'll take care of the rest and try to help you and give you a place to stay. Now, granted, it's going to be primitive. It's going to be all about letting go of feeling sorry for herself, all about healing, all about purging the negative and finding the positive. But that's exciting, and I look forward to that. And I don't look forward to it, just for other people. I look forward to it myself, because over this last year, I've had this tremendous yearning, if you will, wanting to give love. That's why I would go around and I would give food and clothing, and I've paid for medical treatment for people that needed it, because I just want to be the best human being I can possibly be, especially now that, we're past a year since I've started healing. I just get it. And I just get what some of the most, loving people in the world have been saying. And I'm not doing it because I'm trying to, float my boat. I'm doing it because that's the only thing I believe in. Over the last years, I have, in essence, lost all ties to anybody that was in my life up to that point. I mean, almost like I'm now living in a totally different dimension, totally different reality. Because, I mean, think about it. I'm in an area that I don't speak the language. I'm by myself all the time. If I do interact with other people, like explaining how to build things and so on, I have to get rather creative. Benefit of being in combat, especially in Ukraine, because when I was there, they didn't speak English, and I couldn't speak Ukrainian or Russian. That one thing you learn in a combat scenario is how facial expressions, how hand gestures, and so on really can get any point across if you need to, or if your life depends upon it. The after studying the religions and starting to see a theme over and over and over again in all the religions, and reading health science and so on, a theme of fasting kept popping up more and more and more. And so I've honestly, over the last year, I have fasted more time than I haven't. My father at one point, I told him that I planned on doing 30-day fast, and he got upset. He said, "You can't do that. A human can't do that." Well, I proved that wrong. It's all about our perception. It's all about how we live our life and what we choose to do. And the most amazing thing about fasting is it teaches us how much we truly feel sorry for ourselves. It teaches us how much our physical brain allows the negative thoughts to control us, to control our version or perception of reality. It's given me an opportunity to resist all comforts. I mean, I've had the money. I could have been partying it up quite tremendously, but I have eaten extremely minimal. I have been living on, 3 sets of clothing, and the same 3 sets. If you've been watching, I ended up buying a couple new T-shirts because the other ones were ruined, but I don't have much, and I've done that on purpose, not because I'm trying to abuse myself, just because I'm trying to live reality on reality's terms and concentrate more on the good within me instead of feeling sorry for myself. I've been studying, like I said, all religions, BrainSync projects, the theory of full spectrum consciousness, meditation, shamanism, vibrational therapy, and so on. I mean, I have literally 7 days a week, at least 16 hours a day, dedicated my life to this over the last year. And like I said, I've been refusing to feel sorry for myself no matter what happened. And I've been purging all the negativity out of my physical brain, in essence, out of my reality, to try to heal, to try to, in essence, reprogram myself to realize that my perception of everything up to this point isn't necessarily reality. And I could choose to find positive about everything and, in essence, heal and, in essence, wake up. And I've been giving love to the ones that need it the most. I mean, look at the condition of the world, you guys. We have got to do something. And if you're religious, something's up, and I'm not going to get into that at this point. Maybe I will towards the end of my channel. But everybody has just absolutely got to start loving them. First, love yourself. And I don't mean ego or anything like that. I mean, love the fact that you have an existence. Love the fact that it's not too late for you to change and become the best person you can possibly be. Because I assure you, once you choose to start becoming the best person you can possibly be, and trust me, it has nothing to do with financial, you will see that you feel a level of peace that you never comprehended before. And ultimately, I've been trying to stay alive and be the most loving I can. And the reason why I say stay alive is because, there were 2 attempts on my life, and I got absolutely zero help from the FBI or local law enforcement, or any of my family members, because they chose to take the easy way out, in essence, and feel that I must be mentally losing it. Well, yes, I did have PTS, but every single thing I said in my channel was truthful. Everything in this journal has been 100% truthful. Now you know another reason why, I've done things the way I've done them. My eldest, my youngest daughter asked me in the last conversation we had before I left America, if I was to do it all over again, would I have changed anything? And I said to her, no, I wouldn't. And now, now that I've had my channel for a year, trust me, recently I started looking through my journal for the first time. And it's not easy. I see how they perceive things. And looking at that isn't easy. But I still know that the way I have done this is the only way I could possibly heal myself, the only way I could possibly gain my consciousness, and then ultimately become the best person I can be. Now, sure, it has made some people feel uncomfortable. I've said nothing but 100% pure truths. But that was not my goal. And the reason why it's all on YouTube is, well, you can't take it back. Let's see, things that I've learned. Well, and I know that some of this is going to sound extreme, but if you've been watching the channel, you know it's true. If you haven't, you will see, because I will provide, proof. But I've purged all the negativity out of my reality. I have recognized more about another person's brains than most people know about themselves. Now, let me give you a quick example. If somebody is talking to you and you hear them say something negative, whether it be about you, whether it be about, somebody else, well, you instantly know that their brain's looking at the negative first. They're not truly trying to find the positive, because the only positive comes from, here. And if you're speaking negative, then you're feeling sorry for yourself. But I'll get into that a lot more later. How to find the non-truths in virtually literally in everything. Now, that's tremendously useful. I mean, I've done it in writings. I've done it in all the, religious books now. And it goes back to, the formula that I mentioned earlier. And trust me, you guys, I'm not delusional. It works. I have proof. It's in the journal, that's been online for pretty much a year now, that people don't even tend to look past the first, 5 to 10 seconds of a video. But that's another reason why things were done exactly how they were, is because it gave me an opportunity to learn AI, and also gave me a tremendous amount of free storage space, if you will, to prove to the world that what I've been saying is true. It also, when I was hurting the most and I felt like nobody in the world was listening to what I was saying or wanted to hear what I had to say, it gave me the opportunity to talk, to let it go, to hear myself talk, to hear myself process, and to hear myself heal. Well, I guess that comes across to, how to heal myself and how to heal others. And I have proof that, I have healed others. And I'm not talking physically, or I'm not talking just physically, I'm talking mentally as well. And it's not because anything special. It's all of us have the ability, we just don't know how to do it. And I can't tell you what your truths are. I can just show you how to find them for yourself. Now, I've also learned how to astrologically project. I know a lot of people are going to think, oh boy, here we go. Well, all you have to do is go to the short, videos. It's called shorts, and you will see the thermal imaging recording, first ever recording of astrological projection, and it's one of my least viewed videos. Person about a year ago, when I showed it to him right after I found it, he advised me. He said, put this away, do not show anybody, the world's not ready for it. And honestly, I looked at him and I said, when is the world ready for a life-changing event? When is the world ready to realize that our brain has a tremendous amount of lies in it that our perception isn't accurate, that our perception of religion, has some lies in it as well. But anyway, moving on. Also learned how to basically predict what some would consider the future. I don't necessarily consider it like predicting the future. I consider it right there perfectly in front of us. The only difference is when you're awake, you're able to see so clearly. And one of the best ways to see so clearly is as soon as you recognize the negative and find the positive behind it, you know what majority of everybody else doesn't know. And the more you do that, the more you realize, wow, all the movies, all the songs, all of them actually are all connected. They are all telling the story once you recognize the negative and find the positive behind it. But anyway, and how to overcome PTSD, or not PTSD, PTS. All physical trauma, addiction, relationship issues. Trust me, I've had my share of those. Loneliness, depression, and I've done all of this without medication, without counseling, in a lot of time extreme isolation, in less than a year. And it's because I know with my whole being that how we're addressing everything, how we're approaching everything, has the smallest bit of lie, has the smallest bit of non-truth, which keeps causing us to fumble. Look, generation after generation after generation, more and more negativity keeps getting added up. And this is why we have now generations of kids that are cutting themselves, why so many people want tattoos, why we have mass shootings, all of these things, and once you truly purge the negative and you truly wake up and allow yourself to see what's right in front of you, and refuse to accept the negative, then you start understanding why, wow, if you haven't noticed, there's a race for pretty much all countries to try to get to the moon. There's a tremendous amount of space action going on with NASA, with SpaceX. I mean, Elon Musk stating that he wants to get 1 million people to Mars. We're having solar flares. If those of you aren't aware, there was just a meteor that, went through the United States skies and over Canadian skies. I mean, we're having cell tower outages. I'm not going to continue on because people will start perceiving me as being a conspiracy theorist. But trust me, none of this is a conspiracy theorist. And if you're willing to ask questions, I can prove to you everything that's the truth, but you have to be willing to listen. But anyway, if you choose to subscribe to my channel, now notice I said if you choose to. In the last year, I haven't asked anybody to subscribe to my channel. I haven't asked anybody to like, my channel. Now, I've thanked people for subscribing, and I've thanked people for liking and disliking and putting positive and negative comments. But what's really interesting is how few of likes, dislikes, and comments that I've received, even though, I've had over 35,000 viewers. But anyway, if you choose to subscribe to my channel, you'll be notified when each chapter of the story is completed. I'm planning on potentially doing this style of format, and I will, as soon as it's done, I'll post it. You'll get a notification on when it's done. Now, I also just want to throw out there that you'll be able to ask any questions that you might have, and I'll address them at the end of each of my chapters, I guess you could call it. And I'll do it anonymously. I don't want to bring negativity towards anybody. I don't want to make anyone feel insecure. That's not my goal whatsoever. I just want to try to help, share with you what I've learned through my experience. Now, that being said, if somebody's too shy or whatever reason that you would like to do it in a more private, setting, you see there, my private email address is trentsuing@gmail.com. Feel free to send me an email there. Some people, once this is done, like I had said before, some people, I see it says forgive the grammar, have the opportunity to heal at my location in Thailand once I've finished building. You only need to provide your own transportation to Thailand, and I mean that sincerely. Now, when I say some people, well, I have to protect my vibrations as well. And if it's vibrations that I will receive that I feel are going to be incredibly negative for me, then I have to protect myself. Now, ultimately, that comes to if somebody is mean, angry, has hatred towards, or is racist, or so on. There's a lot of other people that just need love, that just need to find the positive, and I only have so much time and energy, so I will concentrate on those people. Once I've completed my story, this channel will end. It's been a year. I'm 300 plus videos into it, hundreds of hours. And, I can't force anybody to listen. Even though I know with my whole being, and I swear to you with my whole soul, that there's so much that you can learn from just listening to this. I'll fall back on the cliche, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But please understand that I just want to give love. That's truly what I want to do. I want to help anybody so nobody has to go through or continue to go through the pain that I've gone through. And ultimately, if you're able to do what I've done, or at least learn from what I've done and heal yourself, that's when you truly heal. But anyways, I love you guys, and I hope you have a great evening. Bye-bye.